Good afternoon again. This is PatriotNetworkTV.com. This is Hank Giesecke, and we have a time with Paul Gosar. We're excited about that. Paul, today we want to talk a little bit about the whole budget issue, and it just seems, just way out of control. I mean, if this were a person, we'd be bankrupt a long time ago. So tell me about that a little bit.
Well, absolutely. We saw the president's plan, just less than 2 months after he signed the Ryan Murray amendment. And what he does is actually increase spending and taxes. Yeah. Once again, we have a president that doesn't understand about an economy, doesn't understand jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. Government creates an environment so that everybody invests in jobs, right. And that's key. But what he does is what his proposal does. It doesn't ever balance the budget, ever. And what it does is it increases spending by 63% over the next 10 years. Our debt in 2024 will be $25 trillion. We have to look at our children, our grandkids, and ourselves and look at this. And putting ourselves in a hole like this is unattainable. Yeah. And so what we need to do is we need to have a serious conversation. It's very, very hard to have a serious conversation when you got somebody like Harry Reid that has used the nuclear option in the Senate to defy any logistics of having a cooperative type of conversation about a fair and equitable budget.
Yeah. Well, and this is the whole issue, and we have people here in the area that are really hurting on the jobs issue, and they keep saying, oh, we're creating all these jobs, and everybody says, where are they? So we don't see them anywhere, and it's...
Well, it must be in Washington, D.C., because as you fly into Washington, D.C., you can see 13 cranes building buildings.
Ah.
Now, everybody wants to be in the Beltway to take their take away from the American taxpayer.
Yeah.
The problem is that we got to get back to a government that's lean and mean, that fulfills its obligations of providing some jurisdiction, that we all play in fairly. Right. But it's up to us to invest. Look at us. I mean, last year we had the huge forest fire that killed 19 of our dearest. We're putting people in harm's way with less tools for them to succeed. What we have to do is got to get people back into the forest, to start thinning the forest to mitigate some of these circumstances. Right. It actually gives them a job. They're bringing a paycheck home, and that starts to tool the economy. Same thing with the land exchange down south of here, bringing almost $1 billion to the state's economy every year and almost 4,000 jobs. Those are how you start getting people to invest in an economy. Sure. You look at what's happening in California. It mimics what's happening in the United States government. They're running deficits. People are going to see their energy escalate by sometimes like quadruple by 2018, yeah. And they're all wanting to move to Arizona.
Sure.
Here's an opportunity to get people back to work the right way.
Yeah. Well, and you hit upon the whole issue too of the issue of jobs. In a lot of cases, it's energy. We need energy here if we're going to do that. And so, of course, now we have the pipeline situation that sits here and sits here and sits here. Will we ever get an answer on that one? I mean, we're seeing the situation in Europe where, again, energy is an issue, and yet here we're still importing way too much, and what are we going to do? I mean,
we've actually had a war on coal.
Yeah.
And with egregious regulations that don't make sense. Yeah. The states on the Clean Air Act were given primacy, and the EPA has just superseded them with a jurisdiction that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Those are problematic, but we need all the above on our energy needs, and that really makes us in tool. The president also brought up, transportation and infrastructure projects. We need to rebuild that. Well, here's a novel concept. How about what we do is we look at Davis-Bacon, not get rid of it, but actually reconfigure it. In 2012, the GAO did an audit of the Davis-Bacon law, and they found that it was 100% fraudulent in their calculations. 100% fraudulent.
Really?
Yeah. What if, and by our standards, we started looking, the Department of Wages is the one who erroneously does these calculations.
Okay.
What if we take 6 words and move it over to the Bureau of Statistics? The savings could be due $15 to $25 billion. Without Homeland Security and Department of Defense, including those, could be over $100 billion. What if we allowed the money to stay in those accounts? All authorizations have to come through Congress.
Okay.
But that means that we're going to get more for our dollar, more people are going to go to work, more projects are going to get done, more people are going to pay taxes, and all of a sudden we're going to have America looking at this instead of Congress. Yeah. Those contracts are going to be subject to all contractors across this country, and you're going to see them lowered. So what a novel concept is to get a fair dollar, a fair wage for a fair job that's fair to the taxpayer.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and related to that, if we could start to rein in the EPA, like you bring up coal plants.
Yep.
I mean, here we are in Arizona, we've got some big coal plants here. And these guys have an agenda, and that's, like you say, a war on coal. And so how do we, start to put that back down a little bit and say, hey, you guys need to settle down. Coal is about as clean as you can get nowadays. I mean,
I find
scrubbers on all of them. I mean, it's,
I find it kind of an oxymoron that we allow catastrophic fires to go, and one catastrophic fire puts out more carbon and particles in the air than does all our coal-fired plants,
right.
all the automobiles in the United States every year. Just one.
Right.
And I thought, if I've got my thing right, those burning trees are premature coal. Once upon a time, coal was trees,
absolutely.
and so
Yep.
we have to have some common sense about it. But what we have to do is we have to be smart on how we attack this. It's not coming through legislation. It's not coming through the purse until elections change the hierarchy in the Senate.
Yeah.
So what we have to do is we have to start looking at making sure our neighbor understands where the costs are coming, educate our fellow American, and then go to the courts and make sure that we're electing people with sound reasoning and common sense application.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think a lot of people they look at these things and they don't, like you say, they don't understand where the common sense is, where the big picture is. It's all, soundbite kind of thing. For example, on the pipeline, is that China is building coal plants at a horrendous rate, so that they think by the oil going there instead of here, that we're going to be benefited? No. I mean,
think about what you just said there, Hank. You look at this Crimea incident with Russia. If you already had the pipeline in effect, think about how much more we could actually hold over Russia if we're the person or the country giving the energy to Europe.
Right.
All of a sudden, Russia is in a world of hurt because that's all their economy is based upon.
Yeah.
Imagine for a second that you were thinking ahead. Imagine for a second that you actually had a foreign policy, and imagine instead that you had a person that understood an economy instead of dictating and tearing down this country.
Absolutely, and those are those big picture things that we need to think about, because the Earth is very small in some respects with regards to that, and so it's one of those things where we need to be strong here. It's like the cuts in the military. I mean, people around here are just very upset about that because, again, we learned from Reagan. You get peace through strength. And the strength is not just military, but it's also economic.
It is, and I think there's two parts to this. I was one of those people that voted for sequestration, and I want that. I don't want to give that up. I don't want to put it on the back of my military men and women that are in poverty.
Right.
That's wrong. But to spend $100 billion in procurement costs in the military every year getting nothing is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And if we're looking at people looking at rechanging Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, we're going to have to tackle that. We almost had it.
Yeah.
And we allowed the military hierarchy to reconfigure this.
Yeah.
And then what we did is we listened to the hierarchy of the military to put some of these cuts on the backs of our military men and women living in poverty. How wrong is that?
Yeah,
that's the wrong aspect. There's got to be a civil conversation, but it's got to be based upon the facts. We can have the strongest. I want the strongest military, but I don't want to pay the fluff. Because waste, fraud, and abuse has been told over and over again. But show me the money.
Yeah.
We've got to come forward, and everybody's got to be accountable.
Sure.
Not just you, not just me, but the military, the agencies, the president, Congress. Everybody's got to be accountable.
Well, and you made a good point earlier. There's so much other corruption that if we saved that money, we could give it to our military guys.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that'd be.
Imagine rewarding their service for a job well done.
Yeah. What an amazing concept. Anyway, well, thank you again for being here,
Thank
Paul.
you. Thanks for having me.
And again, thank you all for being with us, and we'll see you next time. Stay tuned.